Pest version 2 has a new optional plugin that allows you to test the architecture of your application. In this video, we are going to take that new Arc plugin for a spin. Let's start with a simple example. In my test suite, I've defined a new file, architecture test, and I'm going to put all of my architecture tests in here. But of course, in your test suite, you may put these architecture tests wherever you want. Let's write a test to make sure that we don't use dd, dump, or array anywhere in the code of our application. And let's write our actual test. We expect that these functions, that these are not used. So each of them are not to be used. Let's run this test. And I'm not going to run the entire test, but just this architecture file. And you can see that this passes. So dd, dump, and array are not used. Let's prove that this actually works. Let's open up a file here. Maybe in the kernel, we are going to set dump. Hi there. Let's run our architecture test again. And sure enough, we get an error now. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And you can see that our test failed because dump was used in kernel and we didn't expect that. Isn't that amazing? There are other tools that can provide this kind of check, but none of them do it so easy as Pest. And I very much like that this check is now also part of the test suite. The Arc plugin can do a whole lot more. Let's scroll a bit down where I have prepared another example. Personally, I like working with facades. But if you want to enforce that nobody uses a facade somewhere in your codebase, the Arc plugin can do that too. So in this test, we make sure that the facade's namespace is not used in our project, but we make an exception for app providers and the middleware namespace. Again, you can see that the API is very flexible to define such architectural rules. Let's run this test. Oh, and it seems I still have that dump in the kernel. So let's remove that and try it again. And all our tests are green. Let's now try to use a facade here. Let's do something very silly and try to use a storage facade here, like that. Let's run the tests again. And sure enough, the Arc plugin detected me using that facade and it failed the test. Very nice. Let's move on to another example. Imagine that your project has a namespace where you keep value objects. These values objects shouldn't depend on anything, and the Arc plugin offers a method for that, to use nothing. So any class in this namespace isn't allowed to use another class. But we make an exception here. They may still use something from the Illuminate namespace, and they may use global functions. Let's take a look at the value objects in this project. Let's open up group and run the tests. Did I forget to remove the facade again? Let's check. Probably I forgot the storage usage here, like that. Let's run the test again. And sure enough, all tests pass now. So in this group value object, which is very simple, you can see that we use the Illuminate namespace here and that we use a global function here. Let's head back to our tests and maybe remove ignoring global functions here. So now we expect to get an error when we run the tests. And sure enough, the Arc plugin again caught our breaking of the rules here. Let's add that back so our test suite becomes green again and head over to the last example. The Arc plugin is also perfect for defining rules in a domain organized application. If you put your application code in different domains, then it's easy to add rules for it. This test makes sure that the first domain doesn't use the second domain at all. When I run the tests, it's green, but as soon as I use something from the second domain here, and I'm going to just instantiate a class coming from the second domain, and run the tests again, it will fail. So again, very powerful stuff here. In this video, I only showed you a couple of simple examples, but there are many more methods. If I type use here, then you can see some more. We have to use, to be used, to use nothing, to only use, to use nothing. So using a natural language API, you can define and enforce how your application should be architectured. I think the Arc plugin is an excellent addition to the Pest ecosystem. I think I'll use it on every one of my projects, and I hope that you will like it too. Do check the documentation for more examples and use cases.